With analytics talent often in short supply, and as a result, analytics costs going up, many executives have at some point asked themselves the question, should I go offshore with my analytics team? Hi, I'm Brian Amrine from Value Driven Analytics, and today I'm going to be addressing the question of whether you should go offshore with your analytics team. Now, the answer is a little more complex. I don't think there's anything wrong with considering going offshore. After all, the cost is lower. I think that's something that some people are attracted to. It's a whole new pool of talent compared to just hiring analysts in, say, the United States, where maybe the rest of your operation is. So it gives you access to more analytics supply. And the downside that I think a lot of executives are aware of when they're considering this is that now it's in a different time zone, a different place altogether. So if you're used to being in person, they're probably not going to be in person as often as someone that's right there in your office. And they might even be in a different time zone. And so coordinating schedules and meetings can be a little more challenging. So what's the right answer? Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with going offshore, but you need to be extremely careful if you decide to pursue that route. The worst thing that you can do is to go with a really large analytics consultancy offshore and say, I need 10 analysts, and just let them select those analysts for you and think that your analytics challenges are solved. I'm never going to have to worry about analytics anymore. I've hired a consultant offshore to do it for half the cost of hiring an analytics team onshore. I'm good. Nothing could be further from the truth. Your analytics problems have just begun if you take that approach. You need to be extremely careful about what analytics consultant to hire. Just because an analytics consultancy offshore is large and maybe a lot of other companies use them does not mean that it's necessarily going to be a valuable thing to do for your organization. Whichever organization you end up going with offshore, if you do pursue that, you want to be very diligent about the contractors or the analysts that you work with. In fact, you might actually ask to interview them. I know it might seem a little counterintuitive. Isn't that what the analytics company is supposed to do? Get me good analysts and sign them to me? Well, not necessarily. I would absolutely have someone on your staff, or this is a service that Value Driven Analytics, our company, provides. We can build an analytics team for you, or we can even help interview analysts for you, including offshore analysts. We have a 1-hour analytics consultation that can be used to assess analysts. And whether it's us or your own staff, you need to use analytics case questions. So actually taking a real business challenge that you expect maybe an analyst to work on, walk the analyst through that problem, see what they come up with. And if they're able to come up with a robust analytics solution, great. You don't need to put them through a 4 or 5 interviews. 1 or 2 is probably enough, but you need to make sure you're assessing the analyst that this consulting company is going to assign to you. Now, in some cases, maybe you're not even thinking about going with an analytics consulting company offshore. You're actually planning on maybe opening up an office or building a team in-house in an offshore location. So the same principle applies. In fact, the same principle applies even for onshore analysts. You need to use business case questions to really lower the risk of getting an analyst who isn't actually able to apply analytics tools in a robust way to a business problem. It's very important. You'll see so many cases where someone has skills on their resume, probably not limited to analyst, but has skills on their resume and can't actually apply them in a robust way to a business problem. So use case questions in this process. It's also good to find an analytics, if you do go with an analytics consulting offshore partner, make sure that they're going to be flexible. If an analyst that they've assigned to you doesn't end up working out, and you lower the risk of that by using analytics case questions in the interview process. But things happen, and you want to make sure you're with a partner who's going to be flexible and will be able to assign you maybe a new analyst if one just isn't working out. Another thing that's important is to align on schedules. So since you may be in a different time zone compared to an offshore analyst, you need to at least make sure there's going to be some amount of overlap. And it is common for especially really both parties, but a lot of times the offshore analytics consultant will be flexible. And so you want at least maybe an hour or two where you can schedule meetings and talk about what the analyst has done. That brings us to the next recommendation, which is that you've got to keep at least some onshore analyst or analytics managers. Someone needs to manage that process, work to be the person who takes the request from your non-technical stakeholders, your sales and marketing and operations partners who need analytics done. They have a request. You need someone onshore who's in the same time zone, ideally, to take those requests, transform them from business requests to analytics requests, and then they would share those with the offshore analyst who would perform the work. And then that same onshore analyst or analytics manager would validate that work and perhaps present it. Although perhaps you're able to, in some cases, find some offshore analysts that have good communication skills, and if the time zones have some overlap, maybe they are able to present their work directly to the stakeholders. But that's not always the case, and so you absolutely need to preserve and keep and hire at least some people onshore. So I hope that's helpful. Make sure you choose the right partner. Make sure you use analytics case questions to actually interview the analysts that are going to be working with you, whether they're onshore or offshore, and make sure that you've got some time zone overlap with the offshore analyst. And finally, make sure you've got at least a few onshore analysts to work with the offshore analyst. Again, nothing wrong with going offshore for analysts. It's definitely a cost savings initiative, but you need to be very careful in how you do that, or you could find yourself in a worse position. I hope that's helpful, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video. I want to thank you for watching today. I hope you got a lot out of it, and if you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. Now, if you have any questions about what we covered, please consider leaving a comment, and I'll try to respond to it as soon as I can. One last thing, if you or your organization ever need anything analytics related, an analysis, a dashboard build, maybe a data science model build, perhaps deeper training on this very topic or other analytics topics, even a complete analytics transformation, please consider Value-Driven Analytics. Check out our site at valuedrivenanalytics.com, and if it resonates with you, give us a call. We'd love to help you out.